Hi guys, I want to talk about the progress I have been making on the full version of Immersive HUD using the HUD framework, a newly released mod. It's coming along quite nicely. I've got things like the compass showing and hiding on a toggle, as you can see, and the entire heads-up display on another toggle. There you go. Now you might be thinking to yourself, well, how is that different to Immersive HUD Lite? Well, it's different because it doesn't hide the entire heads-up display. So for example, if I took a chem, let's just take buff tats, you can now see I'm thirsty and I have a chemical effect. You'll notice the rest of the heads-up display has disappeared though, apart from the crosshair. The compass I can bring back and forth, and indeed the entire heads-up display like so. Now my health has disappeared because it's full health. So there you go. So it's a little more independent. This means when you get quest messages, when you get location messages, they will show up on screen even if you have the heads-up display turned off. This is a lot more convenient and a lot more powerful. Obviously, I'm going to look into hiding those icons as well. I'm probably going to link them to the main toggle. Most of you probably don't want those icons unless something severe is going on. I may add some criteria where if you're really hungry, it will turn on those icons. I have been trying a variety of different techniques that are available with HUD Framework, and I'm probably going to change again. I've got it working perfectly at the moment. I can, for example, my compass can be activated on zoom. I can set it to activate when I crouch, sprint, whether I'm in combat, whether the weapon's out, and so on. So we can do an awful lot of different things, and we have the same, there we go, settings, holotape, which gives you access to control them all. One key new feature is action points are now separate to health bar. So I've currently got it set that if the action points drop below 90%. Now there is actually a small problem with this. I will actually show you that. If I start sprinting, once I get below 90%, the action points will show. Now you might be thinking to yourself, surely that's happened already. Technically, yes. There you go. Now the reason it didn't appear at 90% as it should have is, believe it or not, the way the game reports your total action points isn't very accurate. It's supposed to give a percentage from 0 to 100. That's what happens with your health. However, it doesn't take into account equipment. And every piece of armor I'm wearing gives me an action point boost, about 5. And that means my top action points is about 120% or 130%. Which is why, under settings holotape, I've given it options to go above 90. You can actually set it so that if it goes below 120, I think that's probably about the limit. Oh, it's already 120 because my action points are somewhat damaged. Let's set it to 110. You can set it so that it only comes on when you're sprinting, which might actually be a better way of doing it if you use a lot of sprinting. So there we have 110%. Now if I start sprinting, it should appear a little sooner. There you go. So I'm not sure there's a way around that. You may have to just use your judgment. If you set it to 90% and it goes down a little later than you would expect, it's probably because you have got armor on that gives you, as you can see, AP5. I've set the fade away when automatically switching on and off. So for example, if I aim, the compass comes on, the fade away is about 2 seconds. I may extend that, and I may even allow you to change it yourself. Stays up for a couple of seconds. The activation's pretty quick. Probably a maximum of about, I don't know, half a second. It should be around about 0.4 seconds. That's how I've set it in the script. It checks every 0.4 seconds, but of course, if you hit the right point at the script, you will get it a little snappier. I think any faster than that is unnecessary. I don't want to run the script too often. this is pretty much fast enough. For consoles, there may be a slight delay beyond that. However, I can try a different technique for showing and hiding the compass that will actually make it snappier on both of them. So I'm still working on ways to make it a lot sharper, a lot snappier, even on consoles. In general, for the vanilla heads-up display, I think I've got the mod basically working. It's going to need a few new features adding and some polish to the settings, but I'm expecting to have a version of this out sometime after Christmas that will work very close to the levels it worked in Skyrim, both on PC and on Xbox, with one or two minor differences. However, there is one problem, a problem that is going to take quite a lot of time and effort to fix, and that problem is the power armor. It would seem that most of the heads-up display you see when you're in power armor is not provided the same way as the rest of the heads-up display. The compass seems to be the only difference, and that is the thing. The compass markers, for example, those are placed the same way as when you are out of power armor, but everything else is actually a mesh. It's part of a model that has textures. Now, there is a way to hide those textures. You can just blank them. The problem with that is I can't then bring them back. This is obviously a little bit of a problem. However, there are some possible ways around that. For example, I can actually remove the power armor heads-up display completely. I can just totally and utterly remove it so that there is nothing there, as you can see. And I can then force it to put the heads-up display that you normally get back on to the power armor display, as you can see. Now, there are some small problems with that. I'll do that again. In fact, I'll toggle it on now. One of the problems is each and every time you zoom or aim, it resets the heads-up display, and I have to detect that's happened and reapply it. So it does flicker a little bit, as you can see. It is slightly annoying. You can also see there's no ammo count. I can bring that back. I can basically bring back all the normal heads-up display elements. It will be, as I said, sometimes on and off when you zoom, but I think most people could probably put up with that. It does have a major drawback. The first drawback is if you do it via script, the way I've done it here, you have to get in and out of your power armor once when you're in game for it to work. That is obviously not an option. So the best thing to do is to actually put a command in the ini file. It's not that difficult, you can do it. But then, if you're playing another playthrough without the Immersive HUD, you'll have to remember to remove the ini file. There are other ways of doing the hiding of the heads-up display. I could blank the textures, and I may look into doing that, although I suspect some of the items on the heads-up display for the power armor are not just textures, but are projected via scripts. I may also look into that. If I can get that working, you won't need to do any ini tweaks whatsoever, and it'll all work pretty much out of the box. The second disadvantage to doing this is, whilst you'll be able to have the full heads-up display that you normally play with, even though you're in power armor, it will come at the disadvantage of not showing you your power armor status, you know, whether the arms and legs are damaged, and whether or not you've got fusion cores left and how much fusion core you have left. Obviously, this could be a bit of a problem. One thing I will tell you, in case you're curious, you still get the glass effect. Let me change the weather. There you have it, rain on the visor, which I think is very cool and definitely helps give you that feeling of being inside power armor. And of course, there's the compass, so you have the standard heads-up display. This is a viable alternative if I can find some way of showing you fusion cores and armor condition as well. However, to do that, what I would have to do is create my own heads-up display elements. I would have to basically create a power armor HUD. one that is very similar to the normal heads-up display and has the same sort of control. Now, I can't do that at the moment because I don't quite know how to make flash components, but I probably can learn it relatively quickly. So what I'm thinking of doing is buying Flash Animate, which is the program you kind of need, and play around, create some components, and then see how hard it is to inject them into Fallout 4 and start controlling them. If I can do that and I can rebuild the heads-up display completely, we can once more have total control even when you're in power armor, which I think is the ultimate goal here. My current gut feeling for power armor is that I need to find a way to remove the heads-up display without using ini commands, because of course consoles can't use ini commands. We can use them via scripts, but that has one major disadvantage in that you have to get in and out of your power armor each time you load the game, or at least once, and that's going to be very annoying. I would rather avoid that, so I'm probably going to have to remove all the textures and edit the scripts to stop it placing all of these items on screen before I push the vanilla heads-up display onto the screen instead. So there are a few steps here to getting the power armor side of things working. I am pretty keen to get it working though. There's something about this problem that's annoying me but also intriguing me, and I think it would be kind of nice to be able to replace the power armor heads-up display and manipulate it in many different ways. I can imagine it would be kind of cool to have custom power armor heads-up displays, which at the moment we kind of can't do. So I am almost certainly going to spend a little time looking into this and hopefully come up with a good solution. So that's it. That's the status of Immersive HUD at the moment. It is coming along, and if you don't use power armor, it's a no-brainer. It's going to be out relatively soon, probably just after Christmas, and hopefully it will work perfectly out of the box. Power armor users, we're going to have to wait a little longer, I'm afraid, and I include myself in that because of course I do use power armor in my current playthrough. There may be a release of some different versions along the way. We will just have to see.